Hi everyone, I am Rituparna Ghosh. I am an author and a life coach. Thank you. First, I would like to express my gratitude to Pune Literature Festival for giving me this opportunity to showcase my work. In terms of writing, I write fiction. I love writing about relationships, and my love for writing has given birth to three beautiful piece of work. One is, of course, Unloved in Love, like you can see. Unloved in Love is a story about imperfect people, three characters, Karan, Kiara, and Kai, and what do they do with the choices that it's actually written for today's generation, maybe somewhere bordering between millennials and Gen Z. What do they do when they faced with choices like love or love or career, or sometimes family or career, or sometimes your family is not okay with the kind of career that you need or you want. So Unloved in Love is a result of that kind of a dilemma. The other book that I have written, other novella that I have written, is The Boy with the Guitar. Boy with the Guitar is about Dev and Rumani, and life has not been very kind to them. So the story is about how do they deal with the lemons that life has thrown to them and make a lemonade out of it. It deals with a couple of complicated topics like parental pressure, your own aspirations. The theme here is essentially relationships. Essentially, how do you manage to get out of the rut that sometimes you find yourself in. So this is The Boy with the Guitar. I hope it's you can see it and it's not turned the other way around. I never know with the videos like this. The third in the series is Boy with the Secret. This is The Boy with the Secret, and as you can see, probably guess, it's my first attempt at a pride story. Boy with the Secret was the second in the Boy series, and the genesis of the story was loss. This was written when peak Delta was at its peak in India, and I was dealing with the loss of my couple of losses of my own actually. And I was like, so this is a story about Nirav and how he deals with the loss of his sister, and how does he process it. So he blames himself, and how does he process that blame and still finds a reason to move on and go forward. So that's a story about loss of a loved one. So all the books are available on Amazon. The Kindle Unlimited, all three of them are available on Kindle Unlimited if you have Kindle Unlimited. And my published book, my first is available on different bookstores and on Readomania website. So thank you so much for listening in, and thank you for taking the time out. Please do give them a read and let me know how do you find it. Let me know any feedback you have. Hopefully you'll enjoy them as much as I've enjoyed writing them.
Good morning and welcome back to Studio One. We have a special treat for art lovers, a masterclass with none other than Dr. Alka Pande. We begin masterclass on art and culture, Shakti, the 51 Pithas. Dr. Alka Pande is an art historian, author and curator with 2 post-graduation degrees, one in history and the second in history of art, followed by a PhD in art history and a postdoctorate in critical art theory, University of London. She has authored numerous books and curated many national and international exhibitions. She is recipient of the Charles Wallace Award, Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters by French Government, Australian India Council Special Award, L'Oréal Paris Femina Women Award, and Amrita Shergill Samman. She built the collection of Indian artists for the SL Museum, Vienna, Australia, 2010. A prolific writer, Pande has also authored a number of books on Indian art and culture. As Artistic Director of Photosphere and initiator of the India Habitat Center, Pande brought in the environment and photographic practice together as a public arts project. Pande was the project director of the first ever Bihar Museum Biennale 2021. Currently, Dr. Pande is a consultant art advisor and curator of the Visual Arts Gallery, India Habitat Center, New Delhi. I request ma'am to begin the class.
Hello, good morning, and namaskar to everybody. Thank you so much for that very detailed introduction. And I'm delighted, of course, to be here with all of you on this wonderful day of Brahaspati, the day of the Guru, of Brihaspati, who's the Guru of knowledge. And I'm going to share with you something which is I hold very close to my heart and very close to my faith, which is the Shakti. I'm really grateful to the Pune International Literary Festival 2021 for including this wonderful masterclass, which also gives me an occasion to really, through the virtual, which is becoming very much part of our everyday post pandemic, share the beautiful journey that I have enjoyed with my primordial mother, the Devi Shakti. Now, uh, I am talking of the Shakti Pithas today. The Pithas, which are really the dwellings or the sacred spaces which the Devi occupies in our consciousness. Um, the Devi has been part of my life ever since I was born because I belong to a family which is a Shakt family, which believes in the worship of the Devi and the Devi alone. Um, so when we were born, all of us, we are actually my ancestors really believed in doing the sacrifice. We were a sacrificing community which sacrificed and slaughtered a lamb in, uh, the observance of the worship. And no child in the family, be it man or woman, could uh, eat meat till the blood of the sacrificial goat was not put on our tongue. Of course, over the years, the sacrifices stopped, and the metaphorically, what you call the white gourd or the white kaddu was cut, and vermilion or the sindhur was put over it as a metaphor for blood, and that was put on the tongue of the child, and then you grew up eating whatever you wanted to. But I'm actually trapping a little bit, but just to show you the power and extent of what you call the primordial mother. I actually want to begin with with this quote, which is very very important for me. In fact, I chant it every day. It is Sarvamangal Mangalye Shive Sarvat Sarthike Sharnye Trambike Gauri Narayane Namostute. So it is basically, if you translate it in English, it is salutations to you, O Narayani, who's the auspiciousness in all the auspiciousness herself, complete with all the auspicious attributes, and who fulfills all the objectives of the devotees, which is the four Purusharths, which is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha, who is the giver of refuge with the three eyes and a shining face. Salutations to you, Narayani. So we have Narayan and we have Narayani. For the people who believe in the worship or the Shaivites, they feel that the Shakti is produced through the energy of Shiva. But the sharks believe that Shiva without Shakti is a Shava. And everything on the face of this earth is produced. The creative principle is Shakti herself, whether it is Bhudevi, the earth on which we live, whether it is the aspect of protection which comes from Durga through Mahish Mardini. That is how we celebrate our uh, Durga Puja or the Navratris. For 9 days, different aspects of the Devi are worshipped, each day a different aspect. Because the Devi can be all forgiving, all encompassing of love, but she can also be ferocious, and she can also be the goddess of uh, death, as you see in Kali. So the manifestations of the Devi are enormous, and it is these different manifestations that we see is in the Saguna Roop, because for many of us, Saguna worship or worship through form is easier. For many, it is Nirgun. There are many people who worship the Devi or the goddess in her formless form. And that is completely a different aspect of the Devi herself. From about the 10th century, which is the post Vedic period, the post Puranic period, what we see is there was a different aspect of the Devi who was worshipped in a tantric form, in the form of the yoginis, and that is why you see a lot of yogini temples, particularly the Chausat yogini temples, which are dotting the landscape of certain parts of India. Um, Now I'm going to come straight into my topic for the day, which is based on my book, Shakti, the 51 Sacred Pithas of the Goddess. Uh, this is, of course, available on Amazon if you want to really go deeper into it. But in this book, I have chosen personally 51 sacred places of the goddess. Some people say it's 108, some people say it's 101. But for me, after all my various readings and many readings, I personally chose the 51 Pithas, or the 51 sacred spaces where the Devi lives. As we all are aware, we are a really storytelling nation. Even our gods have many stories, whether we look at our epics, whether it is the Ramayana or the Mahabharata, or we look at all our Purans, whether it is the Devi Bhagavad Puran, whether it is the Agni Puran, whether it is the Bhagavad Puran. There are various stories associated and incidents. Over a period of time, there are various retellings, and lots of people add to the local flavor is added to it. Say the same principle even applies to the Shakti Pithas, uh, which we see are spread all over the Indian subcontinent. The story of the Shakti Peeth begins in the story of Daksha, who was supposed to be one of the four mind-born sons of Brahma. Daksha had 24 daughters, and one of them was Sati, who married Shiva against the wishes of her father. Her father was a very knowledgeable man. He used to do a lot of yagyas and sacrifices, much respected. In fact, Sati is also known as Dakshayani, being the daughter of Daksha. And once, when Daksha was doing a big, huge yagya, he invited all his sons in law, he invited all the big rishis, all the devas, but he didn't invite Shiva. Of course, Shiva was unaffected by that. That is what the story goes. And when Sati saw all the people going to her father's house, preparing and going, so many celebrations were happening, she said that she would also like to go. Shiva dissuaded her and said, "Never go any place where you are not invited." But Sati did not listen. She went to the great yajna and realized there how much her husband Shiva had been humiliated because there was not even a seat kept for him. So deep was her sorrow and the fact that her most dearly beloved husband had been humiliated that she jumped into the sacrificial fire. When Shiva heard this, he was desolate. He swooped down and took the Devi on his shoulders and started his Tandava, the dance of destruction. It became so difficult that the devas, the asuras, the people living on earth felt that the whole cosmos would be disappeared with the anger of Shiva, that they went to Narayan, Vishnu, requesting him to bring some kind of order to the chaos which was being created by Shiva himself. Narayan had no option but to take his Sudarshan Chakra, which was his Brahma Astra, and he felt that till the body of Sati was in front of Shiva's eyes, he would not be able to control his rage and anger. So, with his Sudarshan Chakra, he used it in such a way that the body of the Devi was cut into innumerable pieces. And then these pieces started falling on earth. It is said that wherever a part of her body fell, uh, a sacred dwelling place emerged. That is why the 51 Pithas. And where the eyes fell, it was Naina Devi. Where her vagina fell, it was Kamakhya. Where her tongue fell, it was Kali Ghat. So we have lots of uh, places where you see different parts of body parts falling. In a place called Maihar in Madhya Pradesh. It is said that her har fell, Ma ka har, it became Maihar. So what I'm planning to do is through my class show you uh, some of the Shakti Peeths which I have selected out of the 51 Shakti Peeths which are in the book. I want to just show some kind of the architectural area, the way the temples have been made, uh, what these temples denote, and how they are spread all over the Indian subcontinent, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Bangladesh to Hinglaj in um, Pakistan. So, as I said, that there are certain questions: who is the Shakti? Is she the primordial goddess, or was she just the daughter of Daksha Prajapati? What as we go along this journey, we will see the significance of these sacred spaces. Now, this is the Sharda temple in Maihar in Madhya Pradesh. As I told you earlier, the town got its name Maihar because it is believed that the Devi or the mother's necklace fell here, so Ma ka har. I also forgot to mention to you earlier that every Devi Pitha, every sacred Pitha also has a Bhairav in that space, the wandering Bhairav, the wandering form of Shiva, who is wandering around his beloved wife. And this temple, as you see, is quite a modern temple. The image inside is a Saguna image. It is not like a cleft in a mountain as it is in many Shakti Peethas. Many of the Shakti Peethas have had forms created by their patrons over a period of time, and there is a very powerful murti, as they say, in this temple, and behind this temple is a small shrine of Bhairav. This is the Devi temple in Kangra in Himachal Pradesh. It is said that this was a place that uh, the Devi came here in the form, uh, uh, was living here, and the big story of the Mahish Mardini, where she kills this big demon. She came here to apply the healing butter on her wounds, and the reverence of the Devi is so much here that the her pind, or her portion of the body which is here, is covered with butter. And if you see the architecture of the place, the temple is very, very similar to the North Indian Nagar style, but it has got the local features attached to it. This is the Chintapurni Devi temple in the in again in Himachal Pradesh, and here it is said that a part of the Devi's foot fell here when the body was, cut into pieces by Vishnu's Sudarshan Chakra. What you see here is a lot of gold leafing outside. Um, Over a period of time, a lot of barricades have been made. So now, whatever the images which I'm showing, they are also, you know, um, to some extent defaced by these ugly barricades which are there. But this temple is quite stark again, very much part of the local architecture of the place. Um, this is a beautiful temple called the Gandaki Devi Temple in Muktinath in Nepal. What you see here is a different kind of an architecture. There's snow fallen around here, but you see a kind what we associate with the Tibetan form of architecture, layered or having different shikharas, but not like the North Indian style. It is said that the Devi's right cheek fell here, and here she is worshipped as Gandaki or Chandi, or the one who overcomes all obstacles. As I told you, that there is a Bhairav in with every Pitha, and here the Bhairav is called Chakrapani, or the one who holds the disc. This is a temple called the Jashoreshwari Devi Temple in Jessore in Bangladesh. And it is said that apparently this is the place where the Devi's hand is supposed to have fallen. Now, if you look at the temple here, it has the arches, which looks, in fact, it has a very much of a Indo-Islamic slant to it, and this was probably the architecture which was prevalent at that point, with the dome being different, which was prevalent at the point when this temple was being made in that area. And it is said that here the Bhairav protecting the Devi is known as Chanda. And this is again that because it is the hand, it is also every Pitha, of course, has immense spiritual powers, but this is the place where she is bestowing blessings onto the people who come to visit her in this temple. This is a wonderful temple which is again very, very powerful, the Kamakhya Devi temple in Assam. Um, the, it is here that the Devi's yoni fell. And because the yoni fell, it is supposed to be a very, very powerful uh, space, because this is from where it is the creative generative principle. And there's a huge amount of tantric worship as well, and the temple is rather large, but it has different features. There are wonderful sculptures on the facade of the temple. There are uh, you know, uh, the dome of the temple is very different to what you've seen till now. This is again akin to the local architecture of the space, and it has been built over a period of time. You can make out that the temple was built over by many rulers. This is a beautiful temple again. All I find all of them so distinct and singular. This is in Kanyakumari, the Kanyakshram Rock Temple, and this is the place where it is believed that the Devi's back fell. And though the landscape keeps changing over time, the original architecture and structure of the temple remained intact. It is this temple is dedicated to a form of the Devi which is closer to the form of Durga amongst her many forms, as I have mentioned to you even earlier. Now, this is a very, very um, it's a very different kind of a temple because it's inside a cave. The Hingalaj, it is also known as the temple in Hingalaj in Pakistan. It's actually known as the Kottari Devi temple, and the it is here there is no man-made idol made of the Devi or the goddess. She's worshipped in a shapeless stone and she's worshipped as Katori Devi. That stone is smeared with sindoor of vermilion, and the pilgrims who come to worship the goddess, they wear traditional red banners of the Devi, wearing the distinctive red and gold scarves covering their heads, as you see a lot of them going to, Jammu and Kashmir to Naina Devi, etc. This is, I think, okay, yeah. This is the Chamundeshwari temple in Mysore in Karnataka. Here, the Gopuram is beautiful. It is rather stunning, with typically with a lot of sculptures on the facade of the beautiful gateway. But unlike a lot of temples which have got very, very colorful um, sculptures, we just see the colorful one on the lintel of the entering the doorway. It's quite monochromatic and looks very, very beautiful. It is on the Chamundi hills, and apparently it has also it resembles, many people say, the sleeping form of the Devi. The Kali Ghat temple um, in West Bengal. This is a picture which not many people, not many people are going. Otherwise, it's impossible. So deep is the bhakti of the people in West Bengal, because that is one of the areas where there's maximum Devi worship. And it is said that here the Mukhakhanda or the Devi's head fell, which makes it an Adipit, one of the four most significant sites of the Devi's worship. This is a temple in the district of Rajamundry in Andhra Pradesh in southern, we'll call southern India, and it is also known as the Godavari Tir temple. This is a temple where you can see is a little more unusual, because you see a lot of shivlings in this temple, the Nandi. So there is a deep kind of connect between the worship of Shiva and the Shakti. So this is in this Godavari region. And what is very, very interesting is that here there is a lot of complementarity between Shiv and Shakti herself. This is the Sri Sailam Malik Arjuna temple in Andhra Pradesh. Very, very rich, and it is supposed to be one of the 18 principal Mahapithas, or the major Shakti Peeths. This now it depends on how people have, or later interpreters of the Devi have looked at different aspects of the Devi's body, and how sometimes they are known as Adipeet, sometimes they are known as the Mahapeeths. It all depends on who the translator of the body parts is. Now, according to Adi Shankaracharya, who was also a great bhakt of the Devi, says that here she's also known as Brahmara Ambika. This is supposed to be also the place where the Devi's neck fell. So, not only is it one of the 18 mm, uh, Mahapithas, but it is also uh, a beautiful, uh, lavish temple in Andhra Pradesh itself. Thanks, Sonia, for being so patient. Yeah, next. Now, this is another very, very beautiful temple. Um, you know, what you would also notice, for those who are following the trajectory of architecture, here you see it's a typical Nagara style temple. This is called the Sri Tara Tarini temple. Now, what you see here is a kind of a big shikhara which is appearing right at the back. You have an antaral, you have a sanctum sanctora, you have a entry gateway going in, and you have a lot of sculpture on the external facade of the temple. So this is obviously a more developed temple, where the building of temple architecture had grown to a large, to a more refined. There's a lot more refinement here, and it is said that this is the place where the Devi's breast fell, and the temple which stands on the mm, hillock is therefore called Tara Tarini, after the patron, who's supposed to be also, they also feel, was a twin goddess. This is, I'm going again down to the south, and here you see that one of the shrines is also in a pool of water. This is the Kamakshi Amman temple in Kanchipuram in Tamil Nadu in India. The story goes that this is the place where the Sati's backbone fell. Some people feel her navel fell here. Some people also say it's the midriff. That is why it is also called the Nabhisthana Otiyana Pitham. This is one of the Mahapithas which was listed by Adi Shankaracharya as the 18 holy sites for the Devi's worship. Beautiful temple in Amarkantak, Madhya Pradesh, the Narmada Kund. Now, it is said that it is around this place, at a site near the Narmada, that the Devi's hips were found. And this is the site of the Narmada Shakti Peeth. Here, the Devi is known as Shona or Sona, and her Bhairav here is called Bhadrasen. We go back to West Bengal, called for in East Midnapur. The temple here is called the Barga Bhima Devi temple, and again, this is belief because that's how we look back at our mythology. That here it is the place where the Devi's ankles fell, and the goddess here is known as Barga Bhima or Bhima Rupa or Bhima Kali. Now, why Bhima is associated with her ankles, I have not explored that aspect yet, but I'm sure over a period of time I will get some interpretation to why it is known as Bhima Rupa or Bhima Kali or Barga Bhima. So, this is in Udaipur, which is Tripura, not the Udaipur in Mewar. This is the Tripura Sundari temple. Now, the lake here is called the Kuma Lake or tortoise because the mound resembles a tortoise. This is said that again, this is mm, uh, where it is believed that the Devi's right foot fell. Her Bhairav is also here as her divine consort as Tripuresh, the lord of the three divisions or three worlds. She's Tripura Sundari and he's Tripuresh. So they are both the lord and the divine consort of the three divisions or the three worlds. Pavagadh in Gujarat. Now, this is you must have heard a lot of songs which are sung as people go climbing up to the Kalika Mata temple in Pavagadh. It is said that there is here a great cycle of construction and destruction, and it has actually here the Devi is supposed to, has evolved from an ancient pre agrarian deity to a feminine force of destruction. It is she's very very powerful here because she not only creates but it is said she also takes. So therefore this is a place where uh, her ferocious and her most benevolent form is present. This is a lovely temple where it's called the Indrakshi temple, the Naga Pushani Amman temple in Pallavam in Sri Lanka. Now, this is another place which is supposed to be where the Devi's anklet fell. And therefore, unlike the Bhima Rupa, where her anklets have also expected to have fallen, the significance of the anklets holds a great deal of importance in the uh, uh, in the adornment of the Devi. In fact, if you see this great Sangam poem, a Tamil poem called the Silpatikaram, the story begins and ends with the story of the anklet. Now, I'm kind of coming to the end of my masterclass. Uh, just to tell you that the Devi, as I had said in the beginning, is the gentle life giver, and as the manifestation of the life giver, nurturer, she's Lakshmi, Saraswati, Parvati. She's also the mistress of death in the form of Durga, Kali, and Chamunda. Devi presents a fascinating juxtaposition, both life perpetuating and potentially destructive. In her life giving form, the Devi is beautiful, benevolent, maternal, knowledgeable, compassionate, and sometimes most desirable as well. The Devi invigorates, cheers, and brightens the entire universe. She is represented and described as an idealized woman who's imbued with beauty, virtue, righteousness, and adorned with jewels. As Sitala Devi, Manasa, Kali, the Devi is shown as a haggard, ugly, unkempt, emaciated persona. But whatever be the form, she's eternally powerful. She is the eternal goddess and she is everywhere. She's here, there, and everywhere, omnipresent. So it is all about today as we talk of energies, good energies, bad energies, positive energies. For me, Devi is an energy which resides in each one of us. And if you even look at the chakras, the seven chakras, which are so much part of yoga, what you see is in the Mooladhara chakra to the Sahasra chakra, the Devi or the energy is very much part of our persona. So it is up to us how we awaken that energy, which is so much part of our system. And for me, the Devi symbolizes the powerful energy which each one of us possesses, man or woman. And it is up to us how do we stimulate that energy and use it to our advantage in a way which we want, which is the dharmic way, which is the righteous way, which is the way which helps us evolve better and better. So I hope you've enjoyed this journey of the Devi with me, something which is deeply personal. There are many, many sites which I have visited personally, but there are still many sites which I need to visit. And I hope in my lifetime I manage to do all the sites because whenever you go to them as a seeker, you end up bringing back something which enriches you personally. So if there are any questions or anything, I'm happy to take them. Okay. Mic को mute करें. Sonia, do you think I need to wait for questions or we just ah well, I think how I get a question saying how relevant are these Pithas in our current life. So it all depends how deeply you feel about the Shakti within yourself. It's 12 o'clock. And what I personally feel is the relevance depends if you are a person of faith. It is true that many people today are very logical, and I'm here not sitting on judgment on people who are non believers. I am talking to those who are people of faith, people who have pursued in their own life the trajectories of the Devi. So if you are a believer, I think the Pithas are very, very relevant. When you look at your own human body and you realize the importance of every part of your body, uh, even if you fracture your little finger, you realize how immobile you become because you can't hold a glass. The little finger becomes so important. And in the same way, when you look at the Pithas of the Devi, they are actually um, making you uh, realize the importance of just not the senses, but the physicality, the presence, and how each portion of your human body is so important in the execution of a good life. So I think the pithas become important because all what they do is they make you think. If you go to any of the Devi Pithas, you're totally immersed in that aspect of the Devi, and then it gives you time to think and reflect on that body part and how important it is in your life, and how do you use that body part to, uh, enliven yourself or enrich yourself. Ah, now that I've been asked another question, that is it possible to visit these in one's lifetime? Yes, I suppose it is, if you are lucky enough that you start your journey early in life, and you start visiting because India is not just a country; it's a continent, and after once we start our professional life, then we are caught up with so many other responsibilities. But if it is your life's mission to visit all the 51 sites, then it is possible, because I really believe that nothing is impossible once you make up your mind. It's how focused you are about reaching your goal. And if you are really focused in visiting all the 51 Pithas, then there's no way that you will not be able to um, visit them. So I've been asked a question that if you had a choice, which one would you visit? Now that's very, very personal. But for me, as a woman, I would visit the Kamakhya temple. And I have visited it, and I've been lucky. I visited it a couple of times. And as a woman, I find it very, very powerful, because it is not only because the vagina fell here, but the connotations of what it means. One, of what it means to be a woman. Two, the journey to the Nilachal hills. You have to go to Guwahati, then you go to the temple, and the site is, or the main idol is placed in water. You have to put your hand there. Of course, it is also that every 40 days the water turns red, and people believe that the Devi is menstruating, but that is not really the thing. They say that water turns red because of the minerals which are part of what comes in the water there. But the aspect of power, what you feel when you go there, and then the temples of the Dasha Mahavidyas which dot the landscape of Kamakhya. So while Kamakhya is right there as a central deity, the 10 goddesses of knowledge, the Dasa Mahavidya temples, which are all around, from Tara to Bagulamukhi to all the Kali, all the Das Mahavidyas which are all around. You can spend a couple of days just wandering from one temple to another in a sacred geography, feeling comfortable, feeling powerful, feeling at peace. It is a very, very restful place as well. So, that is a place which, for me, was uh, very, very engaging. And of course, I want to visit Pavagadh, which I haven't been. That is another place which I would very much like to go. Um, yes, I must tell you of a very interesting incident because I've just been asked a question that did you have a personal, powerful experience? So I have to tell you, when I went to Kamakya 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, I had gone back to Kamakya because I just find the place very powerful. I had lost my mother a year ago, and I was, as I finished the main darshan of the deity, I was going down to the Kali uh, temple. I suddenly get a call from my sister, and I was wondering what that was all about. I couldn't take it up, and then I climbed up to the Tara temple, and I picked up the phone, and my sister told me that my father, who was almost 90, was had suddenly to be rushed to the ICU, and he was bleeding terribly. He had a bleeding ulcer, and I was so shaken. I had barely registered the loss of my mother, and here I hear that my father has fallen ill. Um, I just sat down, and my companion, who was also a great believer, Mala Barua, who's done a lovely book on the Kamakya, for which I've written a little introduction, and that's why we had gone there as a shared adventure to look at the Kamakya Devi. She just tells me softly in her voice, nothing is going to happen to him. Look where you got the information, sitting on the steps of the Tara Devi temple after having done darshan of the Kamakya Peeth. Anyway, I was really sick with worry, but we finished doing all the Shakti, all the Dasamahavidya temples. I was dog tired, took the flight back next morning, visited my father. He was in the ICU for another 5, 6 days. And when he came home, I told him the whole incident and how I was sure he would get well. And he said a very interesting thing to me. He said, my second name in my Patri is Tara, Jagdish Tara, Jagdish Chandra Tara Pande. So, naturally, I was quite amazed at that. And then he also told me that my grandfather had walked up, because we are a family which really believes a lot in Devi worship. He had walked up to the temple with the Devi Bhagavad Puran on his head, sat at the Kamakya temple, and prayed to the goddess. So I feel that my father somehow has come back from another life, and I was really, I felt the presence of the Devi at that point. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read to you a little excerpt from my book, which I think I would like to share with you. Um, First and foremost, I want to talk of the Pitha or the Tirath, the Shakti Pitha or the Tirath. It originates from the Sanskrit word Pitha, which means seat, altar, shrine, or dwelling. And in the case of the Shakti Peeths, it is very specific. The Shakti Peeth is the sacred space where the supreme goddess takes a strong, well founded seat on earth. Each of the Pithas have been turned into shrines for the goddess by the very people who believe in the absolute power of the feminine. Each site where the 51 body parts of Sati fell came to be known as the Shakti Pitha. Now, what is a Tirath? A Tirath is a crossing, And as with most Sanskrit words, there are multiple meanings of this too. Tirath is also the passing of the Atma to the Paramatma, the crossing from the physical world to the metaphysical world. And these 51 sacred sites are also linked by theologians and scholars to the 51 alphabets of the Sanskrit language. As I had told you in the beginning, in each of the Pithas also resides the Kala Bhairav, which is another name for Shiva. Most of the Shakti Peeth shrines contain a naturally appearing stone which becomes the object of worship around which the temple is built. Now, Vindhyavasini is an additional Shakti Peeth which I deliberately did not include in the 51 Pithas. While a powerful dwelling of Shakti, Vindhyavasini is not the abode of Shakti as Sati's body parts. It is, however, the preferred choice and home of Yogamaya, the sister of Krishna who escaped from Kansa's prison at Mathura. The Kalika Puran indicates that there are 4 Adi Shakti Pithas, which is further affirmed in the commentary and text of the Brihat Samhita. It lists the names of locations at various places in India, such as the Vimala temple in Odisha, where her feet fell, the Tara Tarini temple, which I showed you, where her breasts fell, and the Kamakhya temple in Guwahati in Assam, where her yoni and vagina fell, and the Kalighat temple in West Bengal. Now, before I end, I want to tell you about the rituals of prayers and darshan of the Devi. The ritual of prayer to Shakti is vested in the Panchabhutas. Just one second. Yeah?
Alka, it's almost time.
Okay. I'm just going to end that the ritual of prayer or Shakti is vested in the Panchabhutas, where the 5 Gyanendriyas or senses are included in the aspect of the puja. The Panchabhutas are Akash, space, where the Gyanendriya is ear, the sense is hear, and the puja is Pushpam. Vayu, which is air, Gyanendriya is skin, sense is touch, puja is Dhupam. Agni, fire, Gyanendriya is ear, sense is vision, and puja is lamp. Jala, which is water, Gyanendriya is tongue, taste, water, ghee. And last is the Panchabhuta is Bhumi, it's earth, the Gyanendriya is nose, sense is smell, and the puja is Chandan. So if you want more, you can pick up my book, and let me say how much I've enjoyed sharing my journey with the Devi. Thank you.
It was such a captivating class. It had us all glued to our seats. Thank you, Dr. Alka Pande, for being our PILF guest. We will begin our next conversation after a short break of 15 minutes. Please join us for the next conversation, Pride, Prejudice and Panditry, at 12:30 p.m.